G'day guys, and as you may have noticed, I am actually not outside and in the garden. I thought it might be time to do up a different sort of show that can use up some of the stuff that I use inside my garden, or I grow inside of the garden, and show you how I use it inside, which is what I am. So, today we are going to make up some ravioli, and not just the boring old ravioli, lamb shank ravioli. But sadly, I don't have any lambs to knock on the head out the back, and probably couldn't if I did. So these have been bought, and I'll go through all the steps about how I make it, and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, keep watching. First things, we need to cook off the lamb shanks. Now, I have something special. This right here is my latest batch of tomato sauce that I made up. I grew a stack of them and I boiled them up, and you can see the picture here of all the ones that I did up, and they came out tasting fantastic. So there is honestly going to be nothing better to put inside of a sauce with the lamb shanks than this tomato sauce. But I do have something special planned for the rest of the sauce. So first things first is we've got to brown off these a little bit with a bit of onions and that sort of stuff, whack the tomatoes, and then let them boil for a couple of hours. So, do that now. Okay, so we have a couple of onions, and we are now on a nice overhead shot. So we'll chop these guys up. They're only going roughly, because they're just going inside of a sauce. And a great tip for onions is keep them in the fridge, and they will not make you cry. Because it's the juices inside of them that will make you cry. And when they get nice and chilly, then they are pretty good. So I'll get all this stuff ready for the chickens. And I did grow some onions, but honestly, for the price of these onions, it's really not worth it. It's just better to go and buy them. So, try not to lose them everywhere. Chop these up into little pieces. Okay, so these onions are going to go into my pot, which I have preheating nicely, so I'll move this over there. So I'll put a little bit of oil into here. And then the onions go straight in there. So oil in, and then my onions go straight in there after that. And they will start to caramelize quite nicely. Okay, so while this is going, we're going to need some garlic. So I'm going to go and grab some garlic, and I'll take you guys with me. Okay, so let's go out here and we will find some garlic. Exciting times. Now, I have this lot sitting out here, and it has been drying for a little bit, so it is ready to go. Got some other little bits that have been sitting out here, and I'll bring them inside soon, but I thought I might just leave them out here to dry. So we'll take that inside. Come on, puppy. Keep moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep going. Come on. Okay, so this is cooking away quite nicely. Hopefully you can see it all nicely now. So you can see that's starting to caramelize really nicely, and we're getting a bit of colour out of it, which is what I love. Okay, so that is beautifully brown now. So, I have my garlic cloves straight from the garden. Whack one in. So throw it in there, skin and all. Another little one. Woo. Throw it in there, skin and all. And you can just smell the garlic coming off it. It is fantastic. So nothing special about this. Lamb shanks go straight in, and we'll allow them to brown up a little bit. So we'll whack a bit of salt in there. Now there are a couple different ways you can brown up the lamb shanks, but my favourite, take that out, and that bit. Okay, remember to take them off. I didn't even know they were there. So you can do the lamb shanks in the oven if you want. You can brown them off in there quite successfully, but I like doing it in the pot. Now we don't need to brown them off too much, but just a little bit to get a bit of flavour and a bit of colouring out of it. And then we have my lovely, lovely tomatoes, which I have boiled up and gotten ready just for this. But you find these lids are really quite tricky to get off, which is probably a good thing, which means you don't get much stuff inside of it. And sometimes I need to resort to a knife. So once you crack a little, there we go. And we have my lovely, lovely tomato sauce that I made up. Okay, so that should be enough. So now we just whack in all the tomatoes and let it boil. So that is probably the most complicated part of it pretty much done. So I'll let that come up to the boil, whack a lid on it, and then turn it down and let it simmer for a couple of hours basically. I'll probably give it about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And in that time, all the meat will start to fall off the bone and it will taste fantastic when it's actually done. And then it's going to go inside of pasta, which will make it even better. So one thing with when you do lamb or something slow cooked, you do not want it to be boiling really, really hard. If you do that, all the meat is going to toughen up and get really hard, and it's not going to be a particularly nice one. So I'll usually turn this down to quite a low heat. Each oven's going to be different, each stovetop's going to be different, but I like to put it on number 2 at home and quite low at work. And that seems to work quite well. So I'm going to put that on there and leave it for a little while and get on to the next bit, which is going to be my sauce, which I think is going to be very, very special. So we'll go back out to the kitchen. Back out to the garden, I mean. Okay, so it's for ravioli, and I have these lovely, lovely tomatoes that are growing. And they should make a really, really nice sauce. And they will be a very yellowish, just tasty sauce. The yellow ones are slightly sweeter than the traditional red ones, and they will just come up really, really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and pick all of these ones, as many as I need, give them a wash, and then start boiling them down. Yellow Roma, keep an eye out for it, because they are tasty. And because I have a stack of these yellow ones, I am going to pick a heap of them as well. And then they can all go in it as well. Okay, so I have all of my lovely, lovely cherry tomatoes. So I've got all my yellow ones, my yellow Romas, and I'm going to take them back, give them a wash, and then let them boil down like the other ones. Okay, so these are all nicely washed. And seriously, check them out. They are fantastic. And I'm going to whack these straight on the stove and let them boil down a bit. And they should taste really, really good. Now, because I like my garlic, badly try and squeeze them into there. And let it continue to boil down. Okay, so this sauce is pretty much done. It has reduced down and it's all pretty much falling apart. So, we shall take it over, and I'll take it with my timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly tea towel to a little strainer. About there. So basically what I'm going to do now is strain out all the seeds and all of that sort of stuff. So we're left with just the plain juice. So basically now I'm just going to push it all through the weave, and that should get out everything else and leave us with a nice, lovely yellow sauce. Now I wish I had one of those little Italian devices that pushes it all through for me, but sadly I do not. So it's a manual way. And then the chickens get all that, which they will love. And this is what we're left with, so the rest of the sauce. But yeah, check out that yellow tomato sauce. Good luck finding that in the shops. And even without any seasoning, that tastes really, really nice. Which is quite strange for tomatoes, because usually you'd have a really bitter taste, but really quite tasty. With tomatoes, you've always got to add a little bit of sugar to it, because it just brings out the flavour a lot better than what it normally would. And that is a spectacular tomato sauce, if I do say so myself. And it is going to taste really nice. So I'll set that aside till I need it a little bit later. So this has had an hour and a half to slowly cook away, and as you can see, the meat is pretty much just falling away from the bone, which is perfect. It's exactly how I want it. So I will pull these out. And I'll put this to the side. So this is all my lovely meat. So I'm going to let this cool down a little bit. And with this sauce here, I'm not done with it yet. So I want to reduce this down so it's a nice thick sauce and go with the lamb shanks there inside the ravioli. So I'm going to reduce it till it's probably about this little bit thicker. And then take it off the heat and make up the mix. It's ravioli time, and some of you think making pasta might be really, really difficult, but it's not. It's really, really easy. So pretty much the recipe for it is 100 grams of flour to 1 egg. And then you mix it all together. So that's the basic recipe. And I have my flour, and I've got 300 grams of flour, so I need about 3 eggs. So let's go bug the chickens and take some eggs. Say hello to the fishies. And now we have a chicken pen. And they're barking at me. And sorry, Ezzy, but you need to scooch you out of there. Come on, scooch you out. Come on, good. And I will steal 3 eggs. So we have 3 eggs. And we'll go back inside. Okay, they weren't too happy with me, but I have my eggs, I have my flour, and this is going to be my sauce to go on through it all. But it is a little bit yellow, and I'm paranoid it's going to be a very anemic looking dish. So I'm going to play with the pasta dish a little bit and add some basil to it. So that should give you some nice green ravioli, which should taste really, really nice. So let's go find some basil. And we have some basil. Okay, so that should be oodles for what I want, and it should taste quite nice. So let's go back. I have my nice new basil, I have my eggs, I have my flour, and we are ready to make the ravioli, or the pasta for it anyway. I'm going to blend this up until it's really, really small, because otherwise it's going to be a bit weird. So I've got my blender. It's very high tech in this house. So, leaves into there. This goes on top. Okay, so we have our super duper high tech mixer. And I may just whack an egg into here, and it'll help it to break it all up into nice little bits. Okay, so that is blended up enough for me, and now I'm going to add it all to the mixer and let it blend. Okay, so now we have our flour, which will go in there. And this is a dough hook. So the dough hook works quite well in just blending it all and taking it all away from the edges. So that goes on. My egg and basil mixture goes in there. And sadly it starts to lose its colour a little bit, but it should still taste fantastic. And then the rest of the eggs go in. 1, 2. And a little bit of salt. And salt in there. So now drop it and let it mix. And there we have it. So that is my pasta dough. You want it to be nice and thick. You don't want it to be too dry that it dries out too quickly, or too sticky that it sticks to your hands. But that is about perfect. Now this would be a lot quicker and easier if I had a pasta roller, but I cannot find mine for the life of me. So I'm going to do it by hand. And it's probably good that I do it by hand, because then you guys can see how I do it. But yeah, flour it all up nicely. And then we're going to roll it out really, really thin. Annoyingly thin. Okay, so you can see this has cooled down enough for me to actually do everything. So I'm going to pull it apart into little chunks and straight into the bowl. And you can see how nicely this is cooked, because it's all just falling apart. And that is fantastic. So try and make sure you don't get any bones in there. Okay, so there we have all the meat from the 2 lamb shanks, and it should be able to make a really good amount of ravioli out of it. So I'm going to grab the rest of the sauce that I've got. Okay, so as you can see, the sauce has thickened up quite nicely, and it's at the point that I want it, and it's going to complement the lamb shanks really, really well. So So we don't want it too saucy, otherwise they're going to explode, but you want a little bit of sauce inside of it, just to give it a bit of flavour and to make it a little bit tastier. And I'll say that at that point there is pretty much perfect. So now I do a little bit of a taste test, and you want to make sure that the seasoning's right for it and all that sort of stuff. And that needs a little bit of salt. And a little bit of sugar. And a little bit of sugar. And another taste. Slightly more salt.
Can I eat it all? Nothing left.
And that is phenomenal right now. So it's exactly where I want it. So now I do a little bit of a production line. So I'll go around and I will just cut out all of the little bits. So you want a little bit in each of them. You do not want too much. That there is about a perfect amount. You don't want it to be too big, too small. Too big and they won't crimp together and they'll explode. But that is about the amount you want. So I've got a little mug of water here. And we are going to just wet the edges, which will make it all cling together. Put it inside my little pasta crimper thingy. And then just ram it shut. And then squeeze it tightly. And then we have ravioli. That did not crimp very well. Okay. Yeah, so there we have my ravioli. That's the first of many done. And this is a little bit of a last minute addition, but this is some Jarlsberg cheese. And I love this stuff. So it's going to go in the ravioli as well. And I'm sure little old Italian ladies can make this a lot faster and better, but I'm not a little old Italian lady. We have a big pot of boiling water and lovely ravioli. So this isn't going to take very long in here. Just whack it in there till it starts to float to the top, and then it's pretty much done. So I'll start to drop it all in there. If you've got a big pot of water, you can usually put more of it in there because it won't suck the heat out too quickly. And it's still boiling, so I'll keep on whacking it in there. And that's the ravioli in. So I'll whack the lid on and I'll let it boil up. And then I'll move it to the other pan. So this happens quite quickly as I'm going. I've got this one heating up and I have some pine nuts. Where are we? Pine nuts. And I'm just going to give these a quick toast off while that's doing that. Because everybody loves pine nuts. It works better if you turn it on.
Just in your nuts.
Just in the nuts. Okay, so that is lightly toasted, which is exactly how I want it. So I'm just going to whack that into there for the meantime. Couple left in there, do not really matter. So a little bit of oil. And then I have some more tomatoes that I just pulled out of the garden, which will go in there, and I just want to give them a light toss. A little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. So you don't want to cook these for too long, you want to do it just to the point that they're starting to fall apart and be delicious. Okay, if you look carefully, you can see the skin is just starting to fall off from the leaf, and that's about the point that I want it. So, I got my ravioli straight in there. I got some extra basil straight in there. My tomato sauce. And then just give it all a very good toss. And that is about it. So now we tray it all up and plate it up. my lovely pine nuts. Sprinkle a few of them over the top. Check out that. That is now my dinner, and I am excited. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys got something out of it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got any questions or suggestions or anything, please add them in the comments. So thanks, guys, and I will take these out to the people who are eating.